a virus or a plague so sinister that it would wipe out an entire generation of men and dreams and fag hags like her who would be left to their cups and their their caretaker roles and their loneliness and their lack of remembering. Or these survivors would assume the responsibility of making the invisible visible again by speaking the names of the dead. Our photos and sayings were woven together in an enormous quilt. Here I'm referring to the AIDS quilt, if you've ever seen it, that would spread across the entire facade of Washington, D.C., from the White House to the Lincoln Memorial, and still we were quilting. Our fingers became perpetually tired. Our ability to make small talk grew strained. Our patience with hypochondriacs, straight people with the flu or a broken arm, reduced to a nanosecond. We stopped asking straight people how they were when we passed them in the streets or in the hallways or at work, because we knew they were fine. It was the gay men who were not fine. And of them, we always asked, how are you holding up? How are you feeling? Is it better today? But usually today was worse than yesterday, so soon we dropped that last question of hope, letting the truth settle into our conversation rather than pretending. There was no more better, and we all knew that now. There was just this new normal. We were never young again, and we were changed, yet none of us could say how. We were too preoccupied by the act of doing to be able to articulate how it felt, to bring witness to all that loss and suffering. We were too busy doing to be talking about feelings. We were in it and it wasn't ending. We didn't have time to contemplate things. Funerals so close to one another that it felt as if we had just seen each other yesterday at a wake, and here we were the next day at the cemetery or the funeral home or the memorial service or the bedside vigil, hoping for nothing more than a meal or a shower before we had to rise in the morning and do it all over again. We still showed up, though, yet again, wrote eulogies and letters to the editor and mailed sympathy cards. It was a shared history of mass cards and rosary beads and funeral wreaths and undertakers in latex gloves, and the men, the vanishing men like like stars shutting off the sky, the planets being demoted to stars and the stars burning themselves out until the sky was pitch black. And we all stumbled around in the darkness, dreaming of moonlight, yearning for the blue moon of Rehoboth Beach, for Skip behind the bar serving generous drinks, and the freedom and the debauchery of the tea dance at the Rawhide, a grotesque reminder of everything we had lost and would never recover. This is what awaited Eliza, the inheritance of pronouns, the we reduced to I. So, hold on one second.
This is your work?
Yeah, this is my work. Eliza also held an entire generation of hands, gay men's hands, heroin addict hands, working girl hands, hands brittle from feeding tubes, intravenous bags, incisions, infections, incapacitated hands, crippled hands like claws, clutching onto her fingers until they froze like a vice upon time of death. She hated prying dead fingers off like stiff white ghosts. The body resisted death on a primitive level, reluctant to depart. The final days, time slowed down and inched along as if death always took more time than it should. So she sat by their bedside, and she and family members waited for the ending. Eliza only cried after someone was pronounced dead. Then she unleashed her sadness from inside of herself, watering the sheets with the flow of permittable tears. Crying helped her with the rituals of dying, familiar, insistent, and messy. Eliza finally understood then how death seems like a gift after the hardship of being alive. So obviously you're going to say that I wrote about AIDS. That's pretty clear, right? This was the beginning of the AIDS epidemic when I would register clients and within 6 months they'd be dead. That's the longest they lasted. So I had 1,200 clients, they all died. And I lived with 6 gay men at the beach and they all died. I'm the only one left alive, so the book is a lot about them. And then just for some comic relief, I'll read you something else. This is called Reggie. I've got my own fucking problems, Eliza told him, lighting her cigarette and crying. Why do they have to go out so petty, the junkie said to her, lighting his own Newport and crying too. Eliza thought, what the fuck? Can't I just smoke in peace? But no, this broken black man was not going to leave her alone. The entrance to the Port Authority like a wide open invitation to a front row seat of human suffering and the tragedy of the human condition, homeless, unanchored, adrift. Eliza handed him $1 and said, what's your name? What do you need, Papi? A bag? To go to detox? You're going to lose that, referring to the $1 she had just handed him. My name is Reggie, he said, still crying, adding, we've all got our own damn problems, and fumbles with his matches, trying to light a cigarette. Eliza repeated, tell me what you need, feeling guilty that she only had $10 left to her name, but Reggie had even less than that. He had nothing. Reggie's sunglasses hid his eyes, full of secrets or lies. He watched Eliza inhale and sweat. She was sweating in the summer heat, in her green designer t-shirt, the color of sunflower stalks, as thick and as sturdy, her camisole gathering sweat at the crack where her spine met her ass. Her swollen breasts were also beads of sweat like tears. Eliza was not happy. Her middle-aged belly cut open 3 times to remove babies, and now her scar from the emergency appendectomy in the British Virgin Islands, where she almost died last Christmas. That scar is itching in the heat, and she wanted to scratch herself like Reggie, like a homeless person who had bed bugs or fleas, but she resisted the urge. Shifting her belly over her elastic waistband skirt, you will all end up wearing elastic, that's my prediction. Because now everything Eliza wore is made with elastic. Her waistband was also drenched with sweat, and she was struck by the fact that heat, poverty, menopause, compassion, how these elements turned women of her age into leaking faucets. The sweat, the juice, the strange body fluids in an arid desert heat. Lightning storms that struck twice, fireflies, 2 nickels to rub together, praying for rain, but hearing only distant thunder like a recrimination. She dreamed of an air conditioner, a wealthy man, her wits restored intact, any resolution to this desperation, which was trying to have a smoke in peace in front of the southern entrance to the bus station, any escape from Reggie's reality. But now, this summer day, this black man was sticking to her, clinging like the sweat between her sagging breasts, the ones that longed for plastic surgery, just a little lift. Pre-nursing breasts, pretty and perk, not perspiring, not the right one slightly bigger than the left, because Jake had favored the right side when he sucked away the life out of her. As he nursed his breast, feeding her 18 months with a, as he nursed his breast, feeding for 18 months with a thirst that Eliza could never quench, and now her uneven breasts, her larger cup size, permanent evidence of his merciless need, and her enduring failure, leaving only engorged nipples and rage. Reggie, watching her crankiness and impatience, said, "We speak the same language, beautiful. We both need a fix, don't we?" His patois, do you know what patois is? It's okay, his slang of mental illness between his crying man and Eliza's shattered, sweating self. Reggie stumbled, almost knocking Eliza over, but steadying himself with some mysterious rhythm, as if he hadn't missed a beat. His strange, crazy, comforting rhythm, his voice, his shoulders, his lack of eye contact, the cupping of his cracked, dirty hands so Eliza's yellow lighter would work in his broken hands. Hands that knew needles and subway stations and handcuffs and bars in the back of police cars that drove him regularly to the Bellevue psych ward because Reggie was regular in his irregularity, where they called him in the emergency room by his nickname, Crying John Doe. John Doe is crying. But Reggie isn't crying anymore. He is searching Eliza's face. He is watching her as one watches a family member so well known, so familiar as to be watching one's own self in the mirror in the windowless bathroom of the single-room occupancy hotel where Reggie had lived on and off since he was released from Ward's Island, released into the world with his psych meds and his sorrow, and the clothes he came in with, and a subway token for the ride to nowhere. Reggie now was moving like a jackal at a watering hole, circling around Eliza as if she were a gazelle, waiting to pounce on her long, slender, sweaty neck, licking her bones and her vertebrae dry, snapping her legs apart with his sharp, ferocious fangs. "Have you ever dated a black man?" Reggie asked Eliza. Reggie was a real homeless person that I met.
Are you Eliza?
I don't know if he's alive. I can't keep track of
Are you
everyone.
Eliza?
I'm Eliza, yeah. So, yeah, I'm the one with the sagging boobs. Okay, have you ever dated a black